Angela Rayner. I've got to say, I think she's been speaking a lot of sense about devolution. I'm going to come on to that. She's been reaching out to a lot of council leaders, saying that she wants more decisions to be made locally. I think that's great. But before I come on to that bit, I want to address the obvious bit, because the Welsh First Minister today, he's finally decided to stand down. Look, take a listen.
I have worked hard, followed the rules, and done really difficult and demanding jobs for my country. In 11 years as a minister, I have never, ever made a decision for personal gain. I have never, ever misused or abused my ministerial position. My integrity matters. I have not compromised it.
Matt Goodwin, what do you think to this then?
Yeah, I mean, it's another interesting turn in British politics. I mean, I think, again, it's going to put the question mark over leadership in Wales under the spotlight. The ongoing problem here in trying to find somebody who can lead Wales with, what Wales expects. And I suspect we're going to have some kind of changeover and some kind of new culture in Welsh politics.
But hopefully. Why now, though? I mean, this fella lost a vote in terms of whether or not people had the confidence in him. He dismissed it, essentially, as a gimmick. I thought that was a little bit egotistical, and I thought it was wrong, and I thought it should have gone then.
Well, it also parallels a similar issue that we had in Scotland as well, where we've had two leaders now who have essentially lost the confidence of their political parties, of course, coming after Liz Truss and Boris Johnson as well. I think the broader issue is a crisis of leadership, actually, across British politics.
Are you in Wales? What do you think to all the goings-on there? Get in touch with me, as I just described how to a minute ago, and tell me your thoughts on it all. Kerry, your thoughts?
Well, I think it's up to the Welsh people, and the circumstances in Wales have been so bad in terms of housing crisis, unemployment, rising living costs, and here we have someone who's feathered his own nest, which was what seemed to have pushed that vote of no confidence.
What do you mean when you say it's feathered his own nest?
Well, he was accused of fraud, basically. So that, it does seem to be case closed.
What are we on about?
The First Minister in Wales, who was accused of corruption.
But are we on about this £200,000 donation? Because, I mean, there's a lot of allegations and suggestions flying around all over the place.
Well, there's the thing about the donation, but there's other stuff flying around. I don't know if it's true. Maybe it's not. About corruption. So, it seems that if you lose a vote of confidence, you've got to step down, and he hasn't. And it strikes me an arrogance.
But that's not the rules, though, which I find really strange, because I find that the rules should be, if you go to that vote and you lose that vote, I feel like the rules should be, it's binding, so you're gone. I find it staggering that actually you can go to all that time, effort and investment in having these kind of votes, and they're non-binding. What's the point?
Well, I think you're right. You're right on that, to be honest.
Do you think they should be binding?
Those kind of votes? Confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you lose confidence of your party, if you lose the confidence of Parliament, of course, you can't operate as a political leader. You won't be able to get anything across the line.
But he thought he could. And he basically turned around and said it was basically like political opportunism, what's the word?
Opportunism.
Oh, thank you. It was his kind of opponents playing games. Today you've seen those 4 cabinet ministers resign. One of those people, of course, tried to be the leader when he got in instead. So is this just kind of politicking and game playing?
Well, there's always an element of that. But if you lose as a leader, if you lose the confidence of the Assembly, of the Parliament, you can't operate, you can't get anything through. And we saw that in Scotland, we saw it in Westminster, and now we see it in Wales. I mean, it's, as I say, it's an ongoing systemic issue. I think we need better leaders in British politics who inspire more confidence from their colleagues and voters.
Well, who do you want to be your next leader then if you're in Wales? Tell me your thoughts on that. But let's talk about the broader point then, about Angela Rayner. So she's been getting in touch with council leaders, offering people the opportunity now to be bold, step forward, and get in touch with them to kind of figure out ways of making decisions at a local level now. What do you think of this?
I mean, I never thought I'd be saying this, but I agree with Angela Rayner in the sense that after Brexit, the big promise in British politics, one of the big promises, was levelling up the left-behind regions. I mean, people don't know this, but we have the highest rates of regional inequality in much of the Western world. So the difference between, for example, London and the North East or London and Wales. And this was ultimately what helped Boris Johnson get elected in 2019, this big promise to level up the regions. What the Conservatives did, though, is they basically said, we'll help you level up if you apply to the centre for money, for pots of money. We'll then give you that money and you can build a new town hall or a hospital or whatever, or a little statue in your centre. What Labour are saying, and I think they have a point actually, is that's not good enough. What you actually need to do is send power, not just money, but send power down to the regions, to communities, and allow them, for example, Andy Burnham in Manchester or mayors in the Midlands or wherever, to make the decisions that are best for local people. And I actually agree with that, because I think the centre of British politics over the last 14 years, over the last 50 years, the centre, the state, has shown itself incapable or unwilling to take people who live outside of London, to treat those people and communities with the respect and the recognition they deserve.
What do you think, Kerry?
Well, I don't think it's just outside London. I think it's very much in London too. And yes, we've seen a sort of real dereliction of democracy in Westminster and in terms of the state. But I think that devolution, or handing out more powers, which sounds good. It sounds, I'm for the most direct democracy possible. That's why the referendum on Brexit was so brilliant. Your vote mattered. But most of these powers, what's power
until people stepped in and tried to overturn it.
Yeah, exactly. But what are these powers without material resources anyway? What are they? What is she saying? It sounds to me like a wonderful butt-passing exercise.
I think that's...
rather than having to make decisions about what society needs, whether it's in the north or in London, you are fetishising the process, which is a mayoral candidate or a local council. And in London, we've seen all these faux consultations with local people by Sadiq Khan, even asking a university to change the evidence for him to bring in LTNs, low-traffic neighbourhoods, which nobody wanted, and ULEZ. And so, what is Rayner doing?
Just to push back on that, I'm not here to defend the Labour Party and Angela Rayner, but I think ultimately, as a principle, do you agree that power should be as close to the people as possible? Because it's the principle of popular sovereignty, which is ultimately what Brexit was about. We actually believe that the people are a source of legitimacy and authority in our system, and they deserve to have power over the decisions that affect their daily lives. Bureaucrats, technocrats, people at the centre think the opposite. They look down on the people, they think the people don't deserve power, they're suspicious of the people, and they would rather transfer that power to unelected bureaucratic organisations above the nation state, like the European Union, or to quangos, which don't have a direct line. So when we talk about sending power down, when we talk about devolution, when we talk about some of the things Gordon Brown has also talked about in terms of replacing the House of Lords with a chamber of citizens, or having wholesale constitutional reform that brings more power and legitimacy to ordinary people. I don't agree with a lot of things the Labour Party say, but in terms of bringing power closer to the masses, I'm fully on board with that.